David Goggins talks about this thing called the cookie jar. You've probably heard of it. The idea is pretty simple. You keep a mental file of hard things you've done, challenging moments where you wanted to quit but didn't. You persevered. When you're facing something difficult again, you reach into the jar, pull out a memory that reminds you how tough you are, and you use this memory to push through. If you heard of this, and you're like most people, you think this is just a motivation technique, next to cold showers and stay hard. Guys yelling at you to embrace suffering, like when you're tired, when you want to quit. You just remember that time you pushed through something brutal. You use that memory to hype yourself up, feel tough, channel your inner Goggins. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. If it works, right? But I think this frame undersells what's actually going on, because it's not really about motivation only, but something that's far more interesting and powerful. See, our brain is constantly trying to protect us from all kinds of harm. It doesn't treat all our experiences equally. When we fail at something, when we fall short, embarrass ourselves, don't meet our own expectations, that gets filed in what I think of as the permanent archive. High definition, tagged as evidence of who we believe we really are, stays vivid for years. You can probably still remember embarrassing stuff from middle school, but when something goes right, when we push through something hard, when we actually do the thing, our brain does something different. It files that in the doesn't count folder. That was just luck. That doesn't really count. That's not the real me. Tagged as an exception. Allowed to fade. Our self-image gets built from whatever's left in accessible memory. Not from everything we've done. From what we can actually retrieve. Which means it's built from a rigged sample. Permanent ink for failures. Disappearing ink for wins. And you can watch this happen in real time. Someone gives you a compliment within seconds. Your brain generates reasons why it doesn't count. They're just being nice. They don't know the full picture. Again, that's the doesn't count folder trying to grab it immediately. The archiving into cold storage happening live. And this has a real cost. You end up with a version of yourself that isn't accurate, okay? You don't fully trust yourself. Change doesn't stick. Because the evidence that it can stick keeps getting deleted and can't be retrieved. Maybe you're not weak or flawed. Maybe you're just working with corrupted data. And maybe that's been dragging you down for a long time. Let me give you an example from my own life. I've been working out consistently for years. And I don't mean in ideal circumstances. I mean while building a business, while being a dad, while managing everything else that comes with an actual life. Although I truly love working out, the gym was never my uppermost highest priority. It couldn't be. But I still showed up consistently, real effort. And yet, there's this voice, this internal critique that's never satisfied. I'd have awesome workouts, really pushing myself beyond limits. But then immediately after, my brain was already looking for what I could have done better. That's how I pushed myself to injury multiple times, because nothing ever felt like enough. And here's the insane part. I was comparing myself to fitness influencers, people whose literal job is to be in shape. No kids, no business pulling their attention, just gym, content. And I'm over here managing a dozen competing priorities, feeling like a failure because I don't look like them. The wins didn't register. Anyone could do what I'm doing. I should be further along. Meanwhile, every missed workout, every slip, crystal clear, used as evidence. I was building a case against myself while ignoring how much I was actually handling. Same pattern with public speaking. Talk to a friend? Easy. Words just flow. Put an audience in front of me and suddenly my brain starts pulling from the permanent hot storage. Every awkward moment, every time I stumbled. It's not pulling from the times it went fine. Those got tagged as doesn't count. So I go in anxious because my brain convinced me I'm bad at this. The anxiety makes me stumble. The stumble becomes new evidence, self-fulfilling prophecy, powered by a rigged filing system. It's not that I don't have evidence of being capable. I do. You probably do too. It's that the evidence gets filed somewhere and you just can't access it. So now, let's go back to the cookie jar. Here's what I think Goggins actually figured out. Probably without these same exact words, but your brain won't keep your wins accessible on its own. The system is rigged, okay? The evidence of what you're capable of gets tagged as circumstantial, not real achievement, and thereby allowed to fade. That's why you need to take matters into your own hands with a manual override, okay? You have to see and cherish your wins clearly and dearly. The small stuff that goes unnoticed and you need to store that evidence somewhere so it can't be deleted. The cookie jar isn't just motivation, it's manual archiving and a cognitive bias correction. The real work happens before you need it. You put cookies into the jar when things are calm, when the sun is shining, so you have something to reach for when the going gets tough. So recognize and archive your wins, the small ones even, as they happen. Again, it's not about pumping yourself up, but rather correcting a bias that's been distorting your self-image your whole life, okay? And here's what most people don't understand about self-image. It's not just how you feel about yourself, and it's neither your confidence or insecurities. Your self-image is more like an operating system running in the background. It's constantly answering that one central question, who am I? And then organizing your whole life to match that answer. An answer your filtered perception and recollection is building a distorted case for. What you attempt, what you sustain, what you believe is possible for you, all of that flows from the picture you carry of yourself. And here's the important thing. You don't get to override it with willpower, not for long at least. You can push yourself to do something that contradicts your self-image for a day, maybe a week, but eventually you snap back. You return to baseline because the operating system is always pulling you toward consistency with itself. This is why change doesn't stick for most people. They're trying to change their actions while their self-image stays the same, and the self-image always wins. Now, think about what we just said. Your self-image is built from accessible memory, from what you can actually retrieve about yourself. And that memory is rigged, okay? Wins get filed in the doesn't count folder. Failures get filed in the permanent archive, immediately accessible, which is useful if you're trying to protect yourself from real danger and harm. But that vigilance, it comes with a heavy cost in daily life. It eats away at your potential. Because your operating system, the thing running your life, is being programmed by corrupted data. You're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because your self-image was built from a biased sample. And then it's doing exactly what it's designed to do, keeping you consistent with who it thinks you are. And this is what the cookie jar actually fixes. It's not about hyping yourself up. It's not even really about motivation, okay? It's about feeding accurate data to the system that's running your life. When you deliberately archive your wins, when you catch the doesn't count voice and override it, you're not just journaling or following a gratitude practice. No, this is more than just being sensible for the good things in your life. You're actively reprogramming. You're saying, this is also who I am. This evidence counts too. Include this in the picture. So yes, build a jar, a note on your phone, a document, whatever. But don't think of it as a mere self-help exercise. Think of it as maintenance on your operating system. You're offsetting a bias and correcting for a bug that's been distorting the picture your whole life, and it's ongoing. Your brain will keep trying to delete your wins. That's the default. So you keep noticing what's good, keep catching the deletion, keep feeding the system accurate data, because the picture you carry of yourself is running the show, whether you realize it or not. Might as well make sure it's accurate. Build a jar, enjoy the cookies. See you in the next one.